The following podcast by Fusion Family Wealth, LLC, Fusion, is intended for general information purposes only. No portion of the podcast serves as the receipt of or as a substitute for personalized investment advice from Fusion or any other investment professional of your choosing. Please see additional important disclosure at the end of this podcast. A copy of Fusion's current written disclosure brochure discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request or at www.fusionfamilywealth.com.
Welcome to the Crazy Wealthy Podcast with your host, Jonathan Blau. Whether you're just starting out or are an experienced investor, join Jonathan as he seeks to illuminate and demystify the complexities of making consistently rational financial decisions under conditions of uncertainty. He'll chat with professionals from the advice world, entrepreneurs, executives, and more to share fresh perspectives on making sound decisions that maximize your wealth. And now, here's your host.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Crazy Wealthy Podcast. I'm so excited today to have my friend Shirl Penney, founder, CEO of Dynasty Financial Partners, a firm that has allowed the democratization of freedom among financial advisors in the industry who were once, I think, trapped in the big firm space as I was, and while that may be appropriate, now there's a lot of choice, and Shirl, I think, is one of the main reasons we have that. So Shirl, welcome today, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, John. So great to see you. Always great to spend time with you, for sure.
Likewise. So I thought today, you and I have a bunch of things in common, and one is kind of our backgrounds in terms of how we grew up, childhood, and in life. When people are successful, not just in career, but in family endeavors and charitable give back and all of that, hobbies. I know you're an equestrian. I know you love horses. Those usually are outcomes that are associated with narratives that don't really reflect the narratives that one would find when they look into our beginnings. And so I don't want to talk too much about mine. We'll relate it, but I want you to talk, if you're willing, about your beginnings, and then we can talk about how that all influenced the outcomes that you currently have been fortunate to experience with family and business and everything else.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. So I'm originally from the state of Maine, from a little fishing village called Eastport, Maine. It's a town of about 1,300 people. And I was raised there by my grandfather. My mother actually had me when she was 16, which unfortunately is a bit common where I'm from. Would have given me up for adoption, which I think would have been the right thing for her to do, except my step-granddad, when he went to the hospital to check on her, said, you know what, I think I'll take this kid, and not risk that maybe he would go to an abusive home, and decided to raise me. And John, he was 60 at the time, handicapped, dirt poor, and took me home, raised me in this little 450 square foot home until I was 11, and it literally fell down around us and was condemned. So for 3 years between 11 and age 14, we were homeless, lived with different neighbors. We had to move around because everyone there is kind of poor, so we didn't want to burden one family. And then the local Native American tribe were trying to teach their youth a skill set around carpentry, and said, why don't we build this gentleman and his grandson a home as part of a project to teach our youth, which was awesome. It took them a while to get it built because the students were building it, but we moved back in when I was 15, 16. That was the first time I actually had a shower in my life. I used to bathe out of a pot, in the kitchen with a washcloth. But anyhow, that's how I grew up, and then went to Bates College in Maine, studied economics, was always fascinated with finance, and wanted to go off and work on Wall Street. I didn't know anyone in New York, let alone on Wall Street. So I bought a suit for $13 at the Salvation Army, and you and I have talked about this before, John. It fit me the sleeves were up here. It had a hole in the crotch, unfortunately. And I rode a bus, 16 hours, transfer through Boston, make my way to New York. And at that point, I'd never seen a revolving door or an escalator in my life. And I had never seen an elevator that went more than one story. So I navigated all of those things. And just at the end of the day, I said, look, I'm not going to be the smartest person in the room, but I can probably be the hardest working person in the room if you give me an opportunity. And they said, great, sounds good. Come back next week for a second round interview. And I said, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is what I went through to get here. Can't you just decide? So the first time I ever flew, they paid to fly me back the next week, and ended up getting hired and worked my way up, through Citi, Smith Barney, and left at the age of 32 to start Dynasty, which we may talk about. But to your point, I think I talk about this. I have two daughters, 18 and 16. My wife and I talk to them a lot about not judging a book by its cover. And sometimes, and it's been a challenge for them in school at times where they've even been teased about, the perceived level of success, that their family or parents have had. And I'm really proud of the girls. Like, they'll stand up for themselves and say, we'll never apologize for our success. My dad was homeless. He's built this business from the ground up. We've all had to sacrifice. They'll say, I typically don't have dinner with my dad on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday because he's traveling or working, whatever it might be. So they have been, witness firsthand to the level of effort and sacrifice it takes, as you well know, to build a business, certainly to get it to a size and scale of where Dynasty is today.
No, that's tremendous. I always love your story, and partially, we have different stories, but I know Townsend, I believe, is named after your grandfather.
Yeah, Clarence Townsend was my granddad. Yeah,
yeah, and my grandfather on my mother's side was the Bialy king. He came from the Ukraine. Bialys were from Bialystok in Poland, which was related to the Ukraine when he was there. And he had to do certain things to get to the country that we wouldn't want to talk about. And he taught himself English. And I was never close with him growing up. My dad had rheumatic fever as a child, which today is not something we suffer from as a society, but then it was, and caused him to have a mitral valve issue, led to a blood clot, stroke, paralyzed when I was 11, passed away when I was 13. And my mom, for better or worse, was kind of absentee, and so in that sense, I was in your situation where, it was hope that someone was looking over me. I always worked hard, but my grandfather, is the point, was a big influence. Later in life, we got close, and he taught me work ethic just by witnessing what he did. He worked in a 2x4 basement with a brick oven and making bialys and delivering them in his underwear. That's how he started. Yeah. So you learn from those things. And I relate that because I'd love to make a connection before we talk a little bit more about Dynasty between what, you went from watching this tribe build a house for you, and you grew up with your step grandfather who was poor. Where did you learn, or how did you learn? Not the hard work, but the things that you learned. What got you interested in Wall Street? Coming from where you came from.
Well, certainly the hard work and integrity. I got a lot of that from my grandfather, but I'm also a big believer in mentorship by committee. I've always been fortunate to seek out and have mentors across all different walks of life and industry. And to your point, about you as a child and what you saw. I say this a lot, with children in particular. What they see is what they'll be. So you never know, if you're having a chance to mentor or to help a child, the profound impact that you can have in someone's life, which is why, I'm a big proponent, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about charitable endeavors, but in particular with veteran causes, especially veterans that are trying to transition into becoming entrepreneurs like we are, because I think it's so wonderful to help them live the American dream that they spent so much of their life protecting. And I think that's very powerful. But to your question, specific to financial services, in large part, John, I was self-taught. I do think it takes a community to raise a child as well. When I was in high school, I convinced one of the local high school teachers to teach me economics. And we set up a class where, my graduating class was 22 kids. It's a very small rural area in Maine. And they said, you know what, we see something in this kid. Let's push him a bit. So we created a class where I was the only one in the class. And I took micro and macroeconomics in high school. I went on to Bates College, which has a very strong economics department. And candidly, it was quite easy for me because I'd had the mentoring of taking, those classes in a non-accredited high school because one person cared to take that level of interest in me back in Maine, which was great. Also convinced the school to start, the stock market game, which I know is out there, not in enough schools, but in some. And was just always fascinated by numbers, by finance. Some of the local tourists that would come to Maine that I would get to know, I would ask them to bring me copies of the Wall Street Journal and other publications, which might be kind of funny for anyone listening because obviously the data was like 6 months old. So it wasn't so much about following the stocks as it was about learning the language. And I read a lot as a child, and again found mentors the best I could that would be available in Eastern Maine. When I went to college, the first day on campus, they had a 1 week of freshman orientation. The first day I was there, I was in the Office of Career Services, starting to go through the spreadsheets of seeing who's working in financial services companies, who's on Wall Street, and literally from the first week started building the Rolodex so I could, get internships and start to get more experience that ultimately could lead towards, me landing my first job on Wall Street.
No, that's great. I mean, it reminds me of when I was at Arthur Andersen as an accountant, and I was 20. I started there, I guess, at 26, and I had just got my master's in tax and MBA in accounting. Spent my first year learning how to use a copy machine for $60,000 in salary, and I perfected it. But what I remember,
that was a different time back in the early 70s, right, John?
Yeah, not funny, but and not early 70s. So maybe a little funny, but what happened was I woke up one day and I recognized I had done internships at Lehman Brothers when I in the mid 80s, and I recognized that I didn't want to cold call and just sell stuff to people. I wanted to make a difference, and so that's why I pursued my degrees in tax and accounting. But when I was at Andersen at 29, I had clients that were at Sanford Bernstein when it was still the largest privately owned money management firm, and I said I would read the research, and now you probably remember it. It was brilliant research. It was
sure.
Great. They never outperformed anything, but their research was phenomenal. And so I'd read it was called the Green Books. I had his Green Books, and I was so enamored of them that I said I would love to work for that firm. So I called like you did. You just instinctively, clearly instinctively, you knew you had to build some kind of network, right, to be able to reach out and find opportunities. So I called all these recruiters and all these people, and they said, no, we don't have any relationship with Bernstein. They have their own white glove recruiting firms. And there's one guy for some reason latched onto me, and he called the managing director at Bernstein, and he said, I got this guy. He's a triple threat guy. He's got an MBA and a master's in tax. He works at Andersen. He can sell. He can talk to people. He relates. You got to meet this guy. And they said, listen, we have this firm. And he just called him 3 or 4 times. And the 4th time, and I never forget, the guy's name was Alan Feld, the managing director, who himself at 35 then was a managing director at Bernstein, came out of Andersen. He said, all right, fine, I'll meet with the guy, but we have one condition. If I meet with the guy and we hire him, you and I can do business in the future. And if I don't, you're never to call me again. And one thing led to the other. And in the last interview, I met with the head of the institution, this guy, Kevin Brine. And it was a 3-month interview process, psychologist, it was crazy. And he said to me, he asked me a bunch of questions. He said, all right, I don't have any more questions for you. Do you have any for me? And I said, I have one question for you. He said, what is it? I said, what concerns do you have about hiring me? And he looks at me and says, I have none. I closed them. Now, that was something that I learned from my days at Lehman Brothers as an intern, right? Yeah. So it was that was the one day where I was on target. But what you just said about building networks and all that, you learn these building blocks, and they come out of your mouth and your brain when they're needed. So one of the, I want to transition.
You got to be, and I would just say, you got to be tenacious with it, right? And sometimes, you have to kick your way in, right? The door is not always unlocked and easy to walk through. You made me think of, just a quick story. I made a call to a guy named Joe Mara, who's the guy who hired me first time on Wall Street. He was at Smith Barney Asset Management. He was a wholesaler who came through when I was interning in the Portland, Maine branch of Smith Barney. And I asked if I could come see him in New York. And he said, yeah, sure. So I literally called him 20 times, I called it pleasantly persistent, including many of those times, John, in the hospital where my granddad was, unfortunately passing away. And I'm trying to get him on the phone to line up that meeting, that interview that I mentioned earlier in New York. And I got it, the interview, and ended up getting the job. And I was able to go back home and tell my granddad, literally as he was dying in my arms, that we did it, and all the sacrifice was worth it. And I was going to head off to New York and chase our dream to have a career in finance.
And that's wonderful. I love that story. I've heard it before with your grandfather at the end. So I want to transition a little bit to talk about Dynasty. And by the way, thank you for everything you did for me. We met you we disclosed on our last podcast with Mindy Diamond. Ago. Yeah, through Mindy Diamond, and we had circumstances where we knew we wanted to go independent, and I love the friendship we developed, but the professionalism and the people that you surround yourself with, and everything that Dynasty does for any team who's looking to go independent and explore it. I couldn't think of anyone to be a better fit for that. And when we started, I know we were among the early teams, but it's the people you had that gave us the confidence. And so I'd like you to talk about what led you, having worked at Smith Barney, Citigroup, in senior positions at a very young age, what led you to see far ahead, because you did, the need for people to have the resources, from custodianship to financial technology, fintech, to everything else that we didn't have. We, meaning way back when I was in the big brokerage firms. And Mindy Diamond used the two terms, optionality, looking forward, there's more options for people in our industry and for clients, but also she used the term incongruence. In her mind, it's the fact that, the big firms would say, all right, you have to do this, you have to sell that, we need you to do it this or that way, and so forth. The incongruence with what the advisor wanted and what was mandated by the firm. There's now freedom and a democratization. Right. What led you to see that, and how did that come to be? Yeah,
and I knew, as an aside, from the first time you and I sat down and started talking about your vision, that there was philosophical alignment for the why I started Dynasty to why you wanted to start your own firm. Because you talk so strongly about your advocacy for your clients, which is something that I've always really respected about you and your entire team, in wanting to separate where you give advice from where products are manufactured and sold. And that was a big driver for you. And going back a few years before, when we first met, when I founded Dynasty, it was a big driver for me as well. I think the aha moment came. I used to run private wealth management, which is the ultra high net worth group, for Smith Barney, which is now part of Morgan Stanley. And a big part of that job was to bring advisors in with some of their largest clients, largest prospects, to meet with the senior executives, whether it's Sandy Weil at the time and other senior team members. And I remember after a few hundred of those, maybe it should have clicked sooner, but after a few hundred of them, understanding that the way ultra wealthy individuals received their advice was different from the average American. And what I mean by that is the model for them is triangulated. And I've later coined the concept of the triangulation of advice. And what I mean is, advice is given, oftentimes through a family office to a billionaire, insert the name of any billionaire that you may know or have heard of. That family office just works for them. Separately, those families can custody their assets at any counterparty where they feel, is best record keeping, safety of assets. So whether it's JP Morgan, Goldman, Schwab, Fidelity, Pershing, they can house their assets anywhere they want. And then separate again, because they have a lot of buying power, they can go out across the entire industry and shop for products, whether it's Blackstone, BlackRock, you name it. All these product manufacturers would love to provide product to a billionaire. And I remember, sitting in one of those meetings and thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could build a model to democratize the triangulation of advice? What if we could aggregate, over time, and as we have now, well north of $100 billion of buying power behind 60 RIAs that we have on the platform today, over 500 advisors, so that maybe there's an advisor in my home state of Maine that has, $1 million a client that's saved up over the course of their whole life. It's retired school teacher, with someone, who maybe is military or whatever their background might be. Wouldn't it be nice if they could get the same democratization of the triangulation of advice model delivered to them by having a truly independent advisor who's only paid for advice? They can custody their assets wherever they want, and they can go out and shop the whole street from a product implementation standpoint. And Dynasty is the technology that ties that experience together. And that's what we built. And that was where the early thinking and vision came from. Obviously, it was hard. We launched the business in the height of the financial crisis back in 2010 at the end of the year. So raising capital in a way that allowed me to maintain control, to get alignment around raising the capital, and then to build it up took time. Candidly, you guys coming on, given the size of your business and the belief early on for us, was really important, right? To help get the narrative out there of why it is what we were doing with Dynasty. And it's really exploded. I'm very humbled to say that we're 120 billion today. We have 30 billion signed. Not that you're looking to break some news on your show, but we have 30 billion signed.
Nothing wrong with that. It's real.
Yeah. So we, we'll see what happens, in the markets, but God willing, we should be close to 150 billion of assets on the platform by the end of 2025. So, and the last thing I would say is we're just getting started, because as you know, and I know you're passionate about this, it's fundamentally better for the client, for the consumer. It's also better for advisors. It's better for their staff. There's just a beauty in that alignment, which is why I think we're in the early innings. And we're going to continue to see massive acceleration of all roads for advisors and clients leading to the RIA space.
No, that's wonderful. And I this very recording of this very podcast, I don't believe could be happening with the freedom that we have to dictate what we want to talk about.
Right. Without the freedom.
Such.
Yeah.
Right. That's just as an example. I think that, I'd like to talk a little bit. You said that your passion for veterans and so forth. I mean, three of my 6 or so previous podcast guests, half of them have relationship to the veteran community. One is my father-in-law, who was a sergeant in Vietnam. One is my friend Chad Ford, who was a level 5 special ops Black Hawk helicopter operator in Afghanistan, and the other is my most recent guest before Mindy Diamond. My friend Steve Stern, who's Suffolk County, he was a legislator, and now he's involved on the Veterans Affairs Committee with New York. He was recently appointed. So I'm very passionate about it. Maybe not as much as you are, but also I want to talk a little bit about the charities. Like, we work with one of our main charities called the Sunrise Organization, and you talked about mentorship and those sorts of things. So this Sunrise Organization was founded by a fellow who saw the need. It's underprivileged families who have at least one child who unfortunately was stricken with cancer. And so the need he saw was not just that, hey, let's give these kids with cancer something to look forward to in the summer, something pleasurable, but let's give relief to the underprivileged parents who have other siblings that require their time and they don't have it. And so now the siblings and the children stricken with cancer get sent to camp, and it frees up the parents, and it's just a wonderful kind of thing. And Amy and I not just give money, we volunteer. We put candy necklaces. Kids give you hugs and kisses. So I'd love to hear a little bit about some of the things you support in that vein. And then lastly, talk about Around the Track and your podcast a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, the Dynasty Foundation, as well as our family, the Penney Family Foundation, both support various military causes. Dynasty, in particular, focuses a lot on the entrepreneurial aspect of helping veterans make the transition, back into the private sector and sometimes finding jobs, with entrepreneurial-based businesses. We have a veterans network at Dynasty. Every chance we get, I think maybe even the salesperson that worked with you when we were getting to know you was a former F-18 fighter pilot, Ben Bynes.
Ben Bynes, yeah, no, I know Ben. Yep.
Yeah, Ben. So Ben's obviously very proud veteran that's on the team, and we have quite a number. My chief of staff currently, his name is Jeremy Gilbert. He was Army Ranger, so we try every chance we get to hire here, but more than that, to mentor and help connect veterans with other opportunities. Our family foundation, spends time with the Navy SEAL Foundation, doing events, for Gold Star families. Unfortunately, there's too many of those. Actually, just last night, we're doing I was part of a planning for an event called Ranchapalooza, which is a big party we're going to have here in Tampa, expecting over 1,000 people. We're going to have 4 bands, and it's just a big fundraiser for the Navy SEAL Foundation. We're planning for a frogman swim, which will take place in the next couple of months, trying to get some elite Olympic swimmers as well to be a part of it. But a lot of retired SEALs show up in full gear and swim essentially from St. Pete to Tampa, which is pretty incredible. I'm not even sure if you and I could swim out to the first buoy, but
I have no comment about me. You can speak for yourself.
Yeah. But it's just it's inspiring.
I could float to the buoy.
You have a lot of the Gold Star family members that are there, telling stories about loved ones, and it's just so moving and powerful. So again, I'm a big believer. You and I, we've talked about it now. We're living, kind of the best version of our American dream. One of the beautiful things about our businesses is we get to live our American dream by empowering others to live theirs. And we get to do that because of the incredible men and women in the armed services who, to me, are the great protectors of the American dream. So we're really passionate there. I would be remiss if I didn't mention we do a lot around ALS. My wife, Marianne, who her mom, Anne, unfortunately, we lost to ALS. So that's a cause that's very near and dear to our heart. And we do a fair amount around education, scholarships. We try to do a lot anonymously. There's a lot of things that you want to do. You can't do everything, but we're not, people who put our names, nothing wrong with it. Putting your name on a building, it's just not who we are.
No, sure.
But we try to, focus our time, attention, and some of our capital on things that have touched us and that are near and dear to us, from over the years.
Now, Harvey Radler, you may not even know this, but his dad passed away as a result of ALS too, so it's very near and dear to him. In closing up, I'd like you, if you want to talk a little bit about your podcast, but I also want you to talk to the audience about how they can learn more about Dynasty Financial Partners, your resources, and be able to get in touch if it's appropriate.
Sure. Yeah, so I have a podcast. We're in season 6 now. We've taped probably 65 or so episodes called Around the Track, which plays off my passion for thoroughbred horse racing. The Kentucky Derby's right here in front of us. For the second year in a row, I just missed qualifying with one of our colts, but that's okay.
I watched the race when you notified.
I'm going to try to win the Belmont Stakes on my home track in Saratoga, so that wouldn't be that's not a bad fallback plan. But a couple of our friends have horses in the race, so we'll cheer for them. We're taking clients to the Derby. It's a great community event being involved in racing. But we have a podcast. It's 15 minutes, as I call it.
The most exciting
15 minutes and wealth management, playing off the Derby being the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. It's 8 rapid fire questions. Each one of the questions represents 1 furlong on the track. A track typically is a 1 mile oval, and it's 8 furlongs in a mile. So we're walking the virtual track together. And I have leaders from our industry, entrepreneurs, athletes, just interesting people that, for 15 minutes, if you're out taking a walk or if you have a little free time, that you might want to sit down and engage with. So the amount of views has continued to increase over time. I'm super appreciative of that. Like I said, it's a passion project, and for me, I get to sit in the chair and ask the questions, but I'm learning alongside of the viewers. In part, I ask questions, the things that I want to know the answers to as well. So it's been a lot of fun. Specific to Dynasty, our website is just the name Dynasty FP, F as in financial, P as in partners.com. You can follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm not on Facebook, but most of my engagement on social media is on LinkedIn. And I will say I don't check that email as much because I get a lot of stuff that comes in. But my personal email is available, and contact information on the LinkedIn website as well.
Great. Well, listen, I have to just in closing say I really appreciate our friendship. Professionally, I have a world of respect for you, not just because of what you've created, but because of how you've created it, and the integrity involved, and the commitment. I mean, I know you and I know if I need to talk to you, usually 11:30 at night is when I'll reach out. Yeah. So you and I have the similar work ethic, whether for better or worse. We're both a little nutty that way. But again, I thank you for everything, and appreciate your friendship. And I love that you came on today and we had a chance to talk about all this.
I appreciate the friendship too. I think you've built an incredible firm. Even though I think I am younger than you, I'll say I'm proud of you. Really proud as a friend. You and Harvey and Jeff and the whole team, what you guys have done is remarkable. And as I said, the passion and care for your clients is admirable. And as a result of that, I'm not surprised that you've had the success that you've had. And I think I'd be remiss too if I didn't say that you married way up with Amy. And
I'd be lying if I didn't say it. Not just remiss.
And you have a wonderful family, which is yet another reason, another thing that we have in common. And when we get together, it's always fun to to spend the first half of the conversation talking about family, because it's so important to both of us.
Likewise. And with that, send my love to Mary Ann, as we call her, MAP.
Yes.
And good luck, and have fun at the Derby. We went with you guys, I guess, 7 years ago or so. We had a great time. And I know how much fun it is. So enjoy it, and love to everybody.
I think we should wrap this up when you produce it and push it out. We should highlight some of the photos of you in your outfits from that Kentucky Derby trip. I have those.
No objection.
Have those. If your producer would like them, just have them reach out.
Thank you. It was a nice friendship.
So great.
Right, thanks
so
again,
great to
Shirl.
see you. Thank you for having me, John. Thank you.
You too. All right.
Stay tuned to hear Amy's call-in for the recap of today's episode.
Hi, honey. Good morning.
Good morning. What's going on?
Nothing. I'm happy that your laryngitis is over, and now we can talk about what happened in your podcast the other day.
I love how you can lie to me with a straight face. I know you're not happy that my laryngitis is
No,
over.
I truly am happy. I truly am happy. It was very hard to not have you talking to me. I was devastated.
So, I'll tell you about my podcast with Shirl Penney.
Okay.
So I've not the first time that I've heard his story, but each time I hear it, I find it to be remarkable. Shirl, for everyone who's listening, was the founder of Dynasty Financial Partners at age 32. Dynasty has become the leading firm that has democratized the ability of financial advisors like me to become independent and not have to work under the guidelines and boundaries of the big Wall Street firms. And not only pioneer in the industry, but has created a tremendous amount of success. But what's remarkable is that he grew up in a small fishing village in Maine. Most people were poverty stricken, including him. And his mom had him at 16, was going to put him up for adoption, which he said would have been the right thing to do in her circumstance. But his step grandfather, who was also poverty stricken, didn't want that to happen because he didn't want Shirl to potentially get adopted and go into an abusive home or something like that. So in poverty, his grandfather adopted him and raised him. And from that, Shirl became what he is today.
That takes a very special man to do something like that. Really does. He probably owes a lot to his grandfather.
No, he has the world of respect for his grandfather. In fact, he went to Bates College, and I asked him, growing up like that, how did you get introduced to learn about Wall Street? He said he when he was in high school in his village, there were only 22 people in the graduating class. He became friendly with the teacher, and got the teacher to agree to teach him economics. And it was actually a class created just for him. And then he went to Bates College, studied economics, and he said the way he learned about Wall Street is he asked tourists that were coming to town if they could please get him Wall Street journals or bring them to him. And he said sometimes they were 6 months old, but he said he learned the language of Wall Street that way. And a lot of things, he taught it. He was homeless at 11. Their house burnt down, and the local Indian tribe, as a project to teach their children, had the children build he and his grandfather a new house that was ready when he was 14 years old. When he went to his first interview after Bates College, Smith Barney, he bought a $13 suit at the Salvation Army that barely fit him. The sleeves were up his arms, and long story short, he got the job. Went back to his grandfather, who was in the hospital dying, but got there in time to tell him that everything you sacrificed for me was worth it. We did it. And that was the last kind of thing he said to him. So alongside of that, what I respect is he's a family guy. He's got a foundation for Dynasty. He's got a personal foundation. He gives to veterans, particularly those who want to become entrepreneurs, because he feels that it's because of them that we as entrepreneurs are able to pursue our dreams. And he wants to help them pursue theirs because they protected our country so we can do that. So just a lot of great things that everyone will hear in the podcast.
That's actually truly amazing. And one thing I remember before I ask you a couple of questions about Shirl is that back way before COVID, you had a meeting with him, and these were the days when people wore suits. And I guess they were coming out, he and his team were coming out to meet with you, and they were all wearing suits. And you said, let's go out on the boat for the day. And they didn't have clothing to wear, obviously, because they came out in their suits. And with all your sizes, you let everyone borrow some clothing. And if anyone knows anything about Shrill, he's extremely tall. So no matter what size clothing you had, it was too short for him, both in the shorts and the shoes and the shirt. So the first time I met Shirl, he looked like he was a man wearing a little boy's clothing. And that's one of my vivid recollections of him. But I know you've learned a lot from him, through the years of being his friend and working with him. What's one of the key points you learned from him?
You have to believe in yourself, and you have to be persistent. And he was, if it was nothing, he was persistent. We talked in the podcast about knocking down doors because a lot of doors that you need to get through are not open, and building a network. It was instinctual to him, like it was to me when I tried to get my first job in the Sanford Bernstein after leaving accounting from Arthur Andersen, and I called all those headhunters who told me, no, you can't get in, you can't get in, and eventually I got in. He has the same mentality, and so I really I respect and admire that.
Well, I think, you told me a lot about him. He's been a good friend over the years, and I'm glad you've learned those things and you've definitely taken it to another level because I know you care about your clients and you're persistent in helping your clients, and it shows. So I'm going to give you that compliment, but you're not going to get many more today.
Well, I'll give you one. Shirl at the end of the podcast said, like him, I married up, and when he mentioned you, so I'll leave it with that.
I'm not going to even touch that one because you definitely did. Have a great day.
All right. Love you, sweetie. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Crazy Wealthy Podcast. For more insights, resources, and to sign up for our newsletter, visit crazywealthypodcast.com. Until then, stay crazy wealthy.
The previous podcast by Fusion Family Wealth, LLC, Fusion, was intended for general information purposes only. No portion of the podcast serves as the receipt of or as a substitute for personalized investment advice from Fusion or any other investment professional of your choosing. Different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk, and it should not be assumed that future performance of any specific investment or investment strategy or any non-investment related or planning services, discussion, or content will be profitable, be suitable for your portfolio or individual situation. Neither Fusion's investment advisor registration status nor any amount of prior experience or success should be construed that a certain level of results or satisfaction will be achieved if Fusion is engaged or continues to be engaged to provide investment advisory services. Fusion is neither a law firm nor accounting firm, and no portion of its services should be construed as legal or accounting advice. No portion of the video content should be construed by a client or prospective client as a guarantee that he or she will experience a certain level of results if Fusion is engaged or continues to be engaged to provide investment advisory services. A copy of Fusion's current written disclosure brochure discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request or at www.fusionfamilywealth.com.